How's it going, and welcome to No Fun Allowed's guide series on Candlekeep Mysteries, a 5th edition module. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the book, Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme, a scary tale that takes place in Candlekeep itself. Of course, there is going to be spoilers, so players don't watch this, but DMs then want added insight from someone who's ran this adventure before. Go ahead and stick around, because we have a lot to cover. So, Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme is in fact a scary little adventure where your players find themselves locked away inside of a cellar, and scary things go on. Most important of all, the place gets darker, some shadows appear, whatever else may be. This place gets absolutely terrifying. This is an interesting adventure because for a lot of them, you are presented the book that your adventure is named after, but not this one. Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme is in fact part of the adventure that you are looking for this thing, because eventually finding it and then opening it up will lead to victory. Before we get any further with the video though, I just want to give a huge shout out to all my amazing patrons up here. You guys are helping me out so very much. Thank you. Absolutely incredible. Thank you for all the amazing stuff that you're doing. I am putting out some content as well, and stay tuned on Patreon because I am going to be announcing some fun Candlekeep stuff going on over there. Secondly, I also want to shout out Foxglove Armor and the amazing maps that are coming out from her. She is putting out these amazing maps, so go ahead and check her out as well. Links down below. Incredible stuff. These are the kind of maps that I love to see when I'm running virtual tabletops because the art just pops, the colors are fantastic, and I certainly can't wait to see what more maps come out. This book was brought to Candlekeep over 600 years ago. And the interesting thing is that the person that brought it had a bit of madness going on. And not only did they have a bit of madness, but this was a singing madness that spread. Eventually, the people that got infected, quarantined in here, died, and it has been pretty much forgotten ever since. This book is split into two categories. First off being the events that take place in the Firefly Cellar itself, and the second part being the locations that are located in here. So this is a really nice adventure. It plays by the numbers, your players explore around, and you go ahead and flip over to the areas, and you go ahead and describe what's there. And then as the adventure goes on, that is when you just go ahead and read off those events, and show off the scary things that are going on. So the odd thing about this book is it seems like the information is somewhat out of place. You are going to be reading front to back, left to right, you're going to be going ahead and jumping some pages here. But once you start reading through, it'll all make sense, I promise you. So this adventure starts off with your players finding themselves in Firefly Cellar because the regular rest area is booked up. Your players arrive here, easy peasy, nothing goes on, but when they wake up the next morning, they all find themselves humming the same tune. And this will obviously be scary because if everybody is humming the same tune, so much so that they have to go out of their way to stop humming this, then people are going to start being scared. When our adventure begins, your players make their way in here, and there they'll meet the delightful cast that you're going to be working alongside here. This is really going to sell the adventure. Your players find themselves in a place that's already being lived in, and you should make it feel lived in. You should make all these characters' interactions feel organic, make it feel real. And they're going to be stepping into this location saying, okay, you know, we're just visitors. And depending on how long this adventure takes place, your players may find themselves in the same organic boat that they are interacting with all these denizens. For starting the adventure, we get this little prompt here where you go ahead and meet the cast as you begin going down in the depths, and you get to explore around the first areas here. And what I would certainly recommend is your players arrive here at nighttime, just before bedtime, maybe like an hour or two before bedtime. That gives them an hour to at least interact with all the people in here, explore around a bit, and get them on edge because they know that they're playing in an adventure. They know that there is something going on here, but they will not know what it is yet until the next morning. For the cellar inhabitants, we get first off this nice art of the Kenku that your players are going to be interacting with. But more importantly, we get all this great information about everyone here. Varnier, who is a sun elf who has been alive for 685 years. She's old. We get Ebders Smallstone, who is a avowed here, but he also has his daughter alongside him. We have Galeby Smallstone, the daughter, who is just curious about what's going on. We have Ketula, the Tabaxi scholar, who is just here visiting. We have Crinkle, the Kenku custodian, who is also finding some interesting things around here. These characters are going to make this place feel lived in, and also it's going to make it feel cramped because your players are about to go into quarantine. So yeah, to kick off this adventure, just go ahead and have them meet with the people, explore around a bit. They are probably going to be curious about the location that they're in, so just go ahead and describe whatever they see. But most important of all, make sure that they go to bed. Once they go to bed and wake up the next morning, they're going to be humming a tune, and they're going to notice that everybody is humming this tune. Now, depending on how quickly your players act or react on certain information here, you are going to have to go ahead and quarantine this place very quickly. If you say, hey, everyone is humming, you might have some people say, I'm getting out of here, in which case they may go ahead and try and run for the exit. You're going to have to go ahead and slam the door on their faces. And when you do so, we're going to have this nice little text blurb that says, hey, 600 years ago, something bad went down. I don't remember what happened, but we are quarantining in here. We're not letting this thing spread. All of the other NPCs are going to act in the way that they do, and we get this nice little area about talking to the residents about what's going on here, about how some of them are going to be annoyed at this, some people are going to go ahead and try and consume themselves with some work to try and get over it, but we're going to see over time that nerves are going to start wearing down quite easily. So we get this information here about the exit hatch, about how it theoretically can be damaged enough, or your players can steal the key from Varnier. I personally would recommend that there is no way your players can get out. Because if you do have your players get out of here, if your players are spending a whole bunch of time trying to get out, they're not doing anything productive to the adventure, and most important of all, if they do get out, then the adventure is ruined in a sense. I personally would just go ahead and say that, yeah, this place is completely locked. No way you can get out, no teleportation, no key, no nothing. Because if you tell your players, not the characters, but if you tell your players that you're locked in here, then they're going to go ahead and buy into the adventure more, and they're going to stop worrying about trying to get out of here. So what's cool about this adventure is we get that huge events tracker here that shows off the certain events, but they do not tell you how much time passes. They could be happening in the span of minutes, or this could be happening over the span of days or weeks. I would go ahead and tailor that to your own adventure, your own players. Me personally, when I ran it, I had it where an event happened every single day, so time was ticking in and slowly wearing on the individuals. But I could see how some people wouldn't like that. Some people would just want this adventure to be going quickly, so you could just have it be over the span of a few minutes or hours each event takes place. For event number 2, we have Ebders' Outburst. At some point, your players are going to hear a scream ring out, and they're going to recognize it as Ebder. When they arrive, they're going to see his body is paralyzed, and yet he is still singing. And once again, this is going to really start feeding into that scariness of what's going on here. Your players are going to be looking around at each other saying, oh crap, is that going to be us next? But here's the kicker. Once Ebder stops singing, that is when you're going to start rolling on the Shemshime's influence table to find out what happens next. So this influence table here is a big chunk of the adventure. If your players were just quarantined in here and nothing happened at all, then it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it's because of these strange circumstances, that is when things are going to start taking a turn for the worse. So we can see here that for 10 minutes, the lights flicker in and out. We see that books start flying off the shelves and hurting people. We see that the Firefly Cellar becomes much colder. Shadows are going to appear and start attacking people. We're going to see people start taking psychic damage, and they will attack their friends. This is the stuff that's going to start wearing and tearing on the players here, and it's going to be fantastic. So once again, I strongly recommend that you don't have long rest in a one-shot because that just gets in the way. But here's the thing. If you go ahead and not have any long rest, then these things are going to tick away into your players' resources, which is kind of what you want. You want them worried, you want them scared, as they take all this damage, or the place becomes colder, or whatever the case may be. That is definitely going to start wearing into them. And this is going to set them up for that grand finale where they are beat up, but they are going to have to do everything in their power to beat Shemshime. So when do we use this rollable table? For here we get listed from this point forward, whenever at least half of the characters are singing Shemshime's rhyme, roll on the influence table. Add more of these rolls as you see fit, even during the later events. So this really comes down to how long of a session you want, how much attrition you want. I wouldn't do too many of these because they could theoretically kill PCs if you roll too many of them. But I would strongly recommend that you go ahead and do them at least once for every single event. Get them rolling a bit and get them curious about what's going on here and eat into those resources. For event number 3 here, we have the Singing Skull. Your players are going to start hearing a sound of lyrics, and that is when you can go ahead and show them off that stanza that is the handout. So before this, your players are simply humming a tune. They have no idea what it is. They've never heard the lyrics before. But once this event occurs, they are going to start humming those lyrics, and they're going to start realizing, oh man, this is some weird, creepy tale. The important thing to remember here is that the final stanza of that tune is missing. Your players are not going to know the grand finale, because that final part of the stanza is how your players are going to learn how to defeat Shemshime. So once this singing occurs, your players can go ahead and start searching around here, and they will be able to find the skull and destroy it. The skull has an AC of 15, 4 HP, immunity to poison damage. During this whole event, your PCs may be acting erratically, but the NPCs will be right there alongside them. In event number 4, escape attempt, Ketula is going to go ahead and try and break out. She's going to go ahead and make her way up there, and she's going to start banging on the door. She's going to start clawing at it and go ahead and sell this, as she is clearly losing it. And this is where we see friend is going to turn against friend, as Ketula is going to go ahead and attack Varnir, demanding to get that key. I would go ahead and once again sell this up, make it feel so scary in the dark here. And as all these events are going on, Ketula is getting more and more petrified, and Varnir is growing sadder by the moment, and eventually things are going to come to a blow. How do your players interact with this? What are they going to do? Are they going to go ahead and just let Ketula attack? Are they going to subdue Ketula? Are they actually going to kill Ketula? A lot of things can go down here. The freedom in this small confined area is quite a lot. I would go ahead and emphasize that. The fact that this adventure, yes, it is an adventure with a set track of events, but the fact that they could go anywhere in this location at any time and do anything is important. The events in Firefly Cellar are going to ramp up to 11 in event number 5 here, Puppets. Everyone is going to have to make a DC 15 Charisma saving throw, or else they will be charmed by Shemshime for 1 minute. During that 1 minute, they will be compelled to sing aloud the Song of Shemshime, as well as attack other people. This is really bad. Hopefully some people succeed, but if they don't, if literally everybody fails, then you can go ahead and for a full minute describe the chaos that's ensuing, where everyone is trying to fight and kill each other. The charm ends when someone drops to 0 HP, or if you cast a Dispel Evil and Good spell on them. But of course, this is really bad. If even one person gets got by this thing, then theoretically a fight's going to ensue, and more resources are going to be spent trying to subdue your friends. The good thing to note here is that if a creature succeeds on the saving throw, they are immune to Shemshime's charm for another 24 hours. And finally, for event number 6 here, we have Shemshime themselves, this weird shadowy being. Once this event occurs, your players are going to see Galeby, the child, holding the book, but more importantly, splattered with blood. Either Galeby or Crinkle was being possessed by Shemshime, and they fought. This is a very scary thing, of course. Either Galeby defended herself, or Galeby was just under the influence and attacked poor Crinkle. Now your players are going to have a Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme right there in their possession. They're going to know, okay, there's something to do with this book. What are we going to do about it? So the first thing they're going to see is that this book can't be opened. A DC 15 intelligence check is going to reveal the problem. Anyone proficient with jeweler's tools or tinker's tools has advantage on this roll. Fixing the music box in order to open it is going to require 3 DC 15 dexterity checks in order to fix it. So after making an ability check to fix the box, regardless if the check succeeds or fails, they must make a DC 13 intelligence saving throw or take 4d6 points of psychic damage on a failed save, half as much on a success. That is huge. We're playing with level 4 characters here, and they don't have too much HP to work with. They may have a decent amount, but not that much. So these checks are going to seriously hurt them. Once the box is fixed, it is going to play that final tune, and they're going to hear that final stanza in that line, and that is how they're going to know how to defeat Shemshime. See a daughter's grinding grain, wish the spirit's time was through. Trap set for the Shadow Bane, her millstone killed it true. And they're going to see a millstone that bowls over the shadow and kills it. So while yes, they do have the information to defeat Shemshime, coincidentally, this also summons Shemshime into the world. You get this nice little blurb about Shemshime transforming, and it's there where Shemshime is going to start attacking the characters, focusing its attention on whoever is near the book. So the thing about this is, your players may not pick up on the fact that Shemshime needs to be crushed in order to be destroyed. Your players may think this is just a regular D&D thing where your players go ahead and attack. What I would strongly recommend is, if your players do any attack against Shemshime at all whatsoever, you go ahead and expressly say you are doing no damage, or you know for a fact this thing cannot be killed outright. Of course, the other thing that can happen, which definitely happened with my group, is the fact that your players may think that destroying this book is the answer, in which case they will be disappointed, as destroying this book does literally nothing. So defeating Shemshime actually doesn't require too much work. Your players just have to lure Shemshime to a location and drop 1,000 pounds worth of something on them. What is that 1,000 pounds of something that can drop on them? It could be the book sculpture in Area 1, the bookcases in Areas 1 and 2. It could be the stone table in Area 2. It could be a number of things. Your players just have to apply 1,000 pounds of pressure, essentially, to go ahead and crush Shemshime. Your players can get super creative with it if they know what to do, if they know what they're looking for. But if they do not pick up on the fact that Shemshime needs to be crushed, if your players just go ahead and just try and attack it as is, and they don't try anything at all whatsoever new, then they are going to lose. So Shemshime here is a pretty strong character, not just because they are literally invincible unless they are crushed by an object weighing 1,000 pounds or more, but just look at this damage. The Maddening Touch, 46 plus 3 points of damage. That Whisper of Violence, turning friends against one another. That Howling Babble, doing 48 plus 3 points of psychic damage and being stunned. These things are massive. And like I said before, if your players do not pick up on the fact that they need to crush Shemshime, it's an automatic TPK. There's literally no way they can go ahead and kill this thing. And more importantly, this thing natively is just pretty strong. The 31 HP is, worthless at this level, but that damage is severe. Once your players lure Shemshime into any position to drop something on them, you're going to have Shemshime make a DC 15 dexterity saving throw to avoid being crushed. If they fail, then guess what? Shemshime is destroyed. If the book is still intact, then Shemshime is yanked back into the book. It slams shut, silencing the music box, and ending the curse. And that's when your players are going to feel that sensation of no longer needing to either say it out loud or concentrate on not saying it. If the book has been destroyed, however, Shemshime is pulled into the nearest book, ending the curse. That book transforms into a copy of Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme, destroying the book's original content in the process. This is great. Your players see that Shemshime continues on, and your players are going to know, okay, we're not going to open that thing anytime soon. Once Shemshime is destroyed, then your players are free to go ahead and get the heck out of here. And what's really nice is, as a reward, the Avowed are giving your players a bag of holding. Pretty cool. So one thing I'll say before we get to the areas here, just as the quick wrap up, is do you tell your players explicitly that 1,000 pounds of something needs to fall onto Shemshime? I will go ahead and tell you, if you tell your players that explicitly, you don't tell the characters, you tell the players that something needs to drop on them, then there might be a lack of sense of accomplishment. But once again, it comes down to the individual group that you have. If your players are creative enough, they will find out that discovery. They'll know, okay, Shemshime was destroyed by being crushed. Maybe we'll go ahead and crush Shemshime in some other way. Your players may get creative and try to body slam Shemshime. Or they may go ahead and try to do something with insert X and Y spell. Your players can get super creative with this. And I say reward creativity. But of course, your players do need to be creative in this. And unfortunately, some groups may not have that creativity. Some groups may already have destroyed any sense of being able to do that. In fact, when I ran this, my players had already destroyed that stone statue all the way in Area 1 there. So they were out an option in that regard. So me personally, I would go ahead and just leave it as is. Your players are rewarded for creativity and unfortunately lose if they are not creative enough, but run this game your style. And without further ado, let's go ahead and just look at the areas your players are going to be occupying during the course of this adventure. Starting off with Area 1, the Stacks Balcony. Something important to know about the Firefly Cellar is, for a long time, this place was uninhabited, but there has been a recent restoration project that's been going on. In here, your players will be able to find a book lift, which can go all the way down, which is pretty cool. But they'll also find a flying book sculpture. And this is the important part because this sculpture weighs 1,500 pounds. Very, very awesome tool in order to destroy Shemshime. This thing is pretty easy to drop as well. If 200 pounds or more are added to the weight of the sculpture, the chains will go ahead and break and it'll fall down. Alternatively, striking the chains with enough force will go ahead and do the trick. The chains have an AC of 19 with 5 HP, immunity to poison and psychic damage. As previously mentioned though, unfortunately my group got a little crazy during quarantine and destroyed this thing, and thus they didn't have this as an option to destroy Shemshime. In Area 2, the stacks, this is more of a common area for this location, as there is several rooms that are located to the sides here, but most important of all, there is a stone table right there, which your players can go ahead and use just for a common area. Of course, the table in here could theoretically be used to try and crush Shemshime if they drop it from a certain height, or they get somewhat creative. In Area 3, we have the scriptorium. Your players make their way inside of here, and they can see that there is a tapestry. If your players inspect this tapestry, they'll be able to see actually the stanzas of Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme. There is also a door in here leading to Area 4, the Firefly Room, but this is currently locked when your players first start here. Over the course of the adventure, at some point it could definitely be unlocked. It currently requires a DC 15 dexterity check in order to open, or your players could just go ahead and bash down the door. In Area 4, the Firefly Room, this is actually the location of where those people that were infected died 600 years ago. Your players can look around and they'll be able to see, scrawled into the floor, "Finish the rhyme." This is the location of the singing skull from the events earlier. Your players can go ahead and find the singing, they can pull up the floorboards, and there they'll see that pile of bones. And if your players go ahead and inspect the bodies, they'll be able to understand something. One of these people was murdered, they have a hole in the back of their head, and the other person killed themselves. The bodies were hidden away in this closet. So the interesting thing is, of course, one person killing the other person and hiding the body, that makes sense. But the real question is, why was this place covered up after someone died here? This happened 600 years ago. So what the heck happened? There is no text about it. In fact, it literally says that Varnier remembers that this event took place 600 years ago, but doesn't remember because, quite frankly, that's a long time ago. So we don't get any information as to why the bodies were covered up, but perhaps there is a reason to be told here. Perhaps there was a third person here that covered the place up, but that is a story that is left up for you to decipher. In Area 5, we have the bindery. Your players make their way inside of here, and, this is just a place for books to be all fixed up. But the interesting thing, though, is they'll be able to see a list of books that need to be repaired: Living a Dream, 3 Years Among Stone Giants, Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme, and Halfling Superstitions. So of course your players look around and they'll find the other two books here waiting to be repaired, but Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme is not here. In Area 6 we have the Worm Tunnel. This is just a tight little corridor that your players have to make their way through in order to get to the living space in Firefly Cellar. In Area 7, we have the kitchen. So in Candlekeep, you're not allowed to have fires because, of course, this place is built out of books and everything would just basically burn. So what's cool here is that there is a coil of iron enchanted with a heat metal spell that can be turned on or off in order to cook. I think that's pretty neat. In Area 8, we have the Avowed Quarters. There is currently no one here, so this is where your players are going to be staying. In Area 9, we have Galeby's room. Your players look inside of here, and they'll be able to find some interesting drawings. And they are drawings of creepy pictures depicting scenes from Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme. And you can just totally use that classic crayon drawings of stick figures and scary stuff that the kid doesn't understand. But of course, if an adult looked at it, they'd be freaking out. Something to note about all these rooms is that they have context clues about what's going on here. They build to the story that's going on. But here's the thing. Do your players go ahead and start searching every little nook and cranny of this location? Or do they leave things alone? That really will depend on the kind of group that you have, and that will dictate the course of the adventure. In Area 10, we have Ebders' room. Your players could look inside of here and find a box of several items. These are Ebders' keepsakes of his deceased wife. Pretty sad, but it definitely infers the kind of character that Ebder is. There's a reason why he's kind of pessimistic. In Area 11, we have Crinkle's room. This is a locked room, but your players can, of course, break their way inside of here. So the interesting thing is your players can go ahead and mess the timeline here of that event. Your players could break into here, and if they look hard enough, they could in fact find Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme, in addition to a whole bunch of cool little items here. Most important of all, Potion of Gaseous Form and Potion of Heroism. But the thing is if your players break into here before Area 5 and get Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme, that really doesn't change the story that much. Because, of course, you'll be dealing with other tensions. You can go ahead and roll on those events table to have some crazy things going on. You can go ahead and structure it however you desire. it really doesn't change the outcome of the adventure. In Area 12, we have some more avowed quarters, more locations for your players to spend the night. In Area 13, we have Ketula's room. What's cool about this room is that there is a clockwork oyster, and if it is used, then it produces a soothing ocean noise for 10 minutes. This item, I assume, would be used quite often as you're trying to drone out your own humming, you listen to the beautiful ocean sounds, and try and take your mind off of things. And finally, in Area 14, we have Varnir's room. This place is lit with some continual flames. Varnir, being an elf, doesn't sleep. She goes into a trance, but she, of course, spends some decent amount of time here, where she presumably reads and relaxes, because she is pretty freaking old, so it would make sense that she goes ahead and does some light activity. And just like that, that is Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme. A very unique adventure, a very claustrophobic adventure, but I love it. I love the fact that your players get locked in here and they have to find out what's going on, find out what is the cause of this malady, and of course they're struggling against the elements along the way. There's so many great elements to be had here. This event is hitting a little on the nose for the current times, so I know it's not going to be appreciated by everybody, but I know there's going to be a decent amount of people who get a kick out of this adventure. I know I certainly did. I know a lot of players are going to. So go ahead and just temper it to your own devices. Don't do anything too traumatic to your players, but keep it fresh, keep it interesting, and keep the place a little creepy. So go ahead and tell me, do you imagine your players are going to find out how to defeat Shemshime? Do you think your players are going to go ahead and do everything in their power to escape this place? Do you think that your players are going to go crazy during this whole quarantine? Go ahead and tell me all of those things because I want to know. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my amazing patrons up here. You guys are absolutely incredible. Thank you so very much. That is going to do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one.